My son dropped out of college and demanded I pay his rent, scoffing. It's your job to support me forever. When I refused, he cursed me out and said, I'll just move into your house. I smiled and handed him a lease agreement. Sure, but rent's due next week. His jaw dropped as he realized the free ride was over. I'm 54 years old, live just outside Dayton, Ohio. My name's Mark, and this is the story of how I finally stood up to my own son after years of guilt, pressure, and blind love. I raised Dylan alone. His mom left when he was 10. No warning, no explanation. Just a note on the kitchen table that said, I can't do this anymore. She moved to Florida and cut ties. Never looked back. From that day on, it was just me and him. I was working at a warehouse full-time and bartending 3 nights a week. I gave up sleep, weekends, and everything else just to make sure he had a decent life. Clothes that fit. Food on the table. A roof that didn't leak. He had more than I ever did growing up. He was a smart kid. Teachers always said he had potential. He was quick with words, great at getting out of trouble. I thought that was charm. Looking back now, maybe it was something else. He got into Wright State. I cried when we dropped him off freshman year. Paid his tuition out of my savings, co-signed on his apartment, even gave him my old Honda to get around. He said he wanted to study business. Said he had plans to start something big. I believed him. The first year went okay. Grades weren't great, but he passed. Then second year, he started acting different. Wouldn't answer calls. Short texts. Always needed money, books, groceries. Emergency expenses. I sent what I could. He said he was stressed and overwhelmed. I told him to hang in there. Then one day, I called the school about a tuition mix-up and they told me he'd dropped out 2 months earlier. No warning. No conversation. Nothing. I drove straight to his place. He wasn't there. When he finally came home, he acted like it wasn't a big deal. College is a scam, he said. I'm figuring stuff out. You'll see. I asked what the plan was. He shrugged. Working on a startup. I just need time. What he really meant was he was spending most days gaming, smoking, and bouncing between side gigs he never kept more than a week. Still, I kept paying his rent. The apartment downtown wasn't cheap, but I kept telling myself, he's just lost right now. He'll snap out of it. But he didn't. He got lazier. Entitled. Then came the night he showed up at my door with his bags. Didn't call. Didn't ask. Just showed up. His lease was up, and he said he expected me to either renew it or let him move into my house. When I said no calmly, he scoffed like I was the crazy one. What do you mean, no? He said. You're my dad. It's your job to support me forever. Forever. That word stuck in my head like a hammer hit. He went off. Called me selfish. A loser. Said I was turning my back on him just like his mom did. Then he shouted, Fine. I'll just move in. You can't stop me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just walked into the kitchen, pulled out a folder I'd prepared weeks earlier when I started to see this coming. It was a lease agreement. I handed it to him. If you're moving in, rent's $650. Utilities split. No smoking. No guests past 10. Chores are listed on page 2. Rent's due next Friday. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. You're joking. No. This is what adults do. You want to live here, you pay like an adult. He called me a cold-hearted bastard, and stormed out. Slammed the door hard enough to knock a picture off the wall. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard from him since. Word is he's crashing on some friend's couch. I miss him. But I'm also relieved. I stopped walking on eggshells. I stopped letting guilt run my life. He thought I owed him forever. I finally showed him I didn't. A week after Dylan stormed out, I got a knock on the door around 10 at night. I was half asleep, wearing old sweatpants and a t-shirt, but something about that knock felt familiar. Loud. Demanding. I opened the door and there he was. Dylan. Same hoodie he always wore, face pale, eyes bloodshot. He looked exhausted. "I just need a place to crash for a couple nights," he said. "I'm not signing anything. Just a couch. 2 nights max." I paused. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to be the dad who always left the door open. But I wasn't going to get played again. "You come in, you sign the lease. Period." He laughed. "Are you serious right now? You made choices. This is mine." He turned and walked back to his car without another word. 2 days later, I got a call from my sister, Paula. Dylan had shown up at her house crying, saying I kicked him out and left him homeless. Told her I was being abusive. That I was mentally unstable. She's always been protective of him. She called me furious, said I was being heartless, that I was letting pride ruin my family. I told her the truth. About the lease. About everything leading up to it. She didn't believe me, not at first. Said Dylan would never lie about something like that. It hurt. More than I expected. 3 more days passed before I heard anything again. This time it was from my bank. Someone had tried to withdraw $2,000 from my savings account. At the branch. Turned out Dylan still had a copy of my debit card from when I used to send him money. He walked into a branch in Centerville and tried to pretend to be me. Gave them my name, my account number, even answered one of the security questions. He would have gotten away with it, too, if the teller hadn't been sharp. She asked for ID, and when he couldn't produce one, she stalled and flagged the manager. I got a call within an hour. He didn't get arrested. They let him go. Said it was a family matter. But they told me to lock my accounts. So I did. That night, I sat at the kitchen table and just stared at my old family photos. Dylan and me at Kings Island, him with missing front teeth, laughing. Me holding his hand at his high school graduation. All the memories that meant something to me, but apparently didn't mean much to him anymore. And then came the final straw. The next week, I got served with paperwork. Dylan had filed a small claims suit against me. Said I promised lifelong support, and that I'd breached a verbal agreement. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I called him. First time in weeks. Straight to voicemail. I left a message. "Dylan, it's Dad. I got the papers. If this is really what you want, fine. But once this goes through, we're done. No more calls. No more help. You do this, you're on your own." No response. The court date was set for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, I started digging. Looking into his job history, old texts, even emails. I wasn't trying to hurt him, I just needed to protect myself. That's when I found something. An old email chain he accidentally forwarded to me months ago. He was bragging to a friend about how easy it was to get money from me. Literally said, "My old man's a sucker. I say mental health and he opens the wallet." I printed it. Saved everything. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. But if he wanted a war, he was going to get one. I showed up to the small claims hearing early, dressed in clean slacks and a button-up. Nothing fancy, just something that said I'm not here to play games. Dylan walked in late. He looked like he hadn't slept. He was wearing a wrinkled t-shirt and cargo pants, his hair messy, eyes dark underneath. He didn't look at me. Didn't say a word. The judge, a short, no-nonsense woman in her 60s, called the case and asked Dylan to speak first. He stood up, cleared his throat and said, "My father promised to support me indefinitely. He told me I didn't need to worry about rent, school, anything. Then he changed his mind suddenly and put me out. I was left without a place to live. He talked like he was reading from a script. Calm, robotic. No emotion. Just this fake, polished tone that didn't match the person I knew." The judge nodded and turned to me. "I kept it simple. I supported my son for 22 years. I paid for school, rent, food, everything. He dropped out without telling me. Refused to work. When I said I couldn't pay any more, he demanded to move in rent-free. I gave him a lease. He refused. Then he tried to withdraw $2,000 from my savings without my permission. The judge raised her eyebrows at that. I pulled out the email. The one where he called me a sucker. I handed it to the clerk, who passed it up. The courtroom was dead silent while she read it. She looked at Dylan. "Did you send this email?" He didn't answer at first. Then, "Yeah, but it was a joke. I didn't mean, that's not how it reads." The judge didn't rule that day. She said she needed to review the case and would mail the decision. We left the courtroom in silence. But that wasn't the twist. That came 2 days later. I got a call from a guy named Eric. Said he used to be Dylan's roommate back when he first started college. "I probably shouldn't be calling," he said, "but I saw something the other day that made me think you should know." He said Dylan had been telling people I was abusive. Not just emotionally, but physically. Told one of his ex-girlfriends I used to beat him with a belt and lock him in his room. "None of that ever happened," I said. "I didn't think so," Eric replied. "He said all kinds of stuff. He also said he was planning to get power of attorney over you when you got older so he could cash out. Thought he was joking, but now I'm not so sure." That was the moment something inside me broke. This wasn't just a rebellious kid lashing out. This was something deeper. Meaner. I decided to cut all ties. I met with a lawyer and started the process to protect everything: bank accounts, the house, even the small pension I had from the warehouse job. I changed my will. Removed him completely. The last thread was my sister, Paula. She'd taken his side in the beginning, but now she wasn't so sure. When I told her everything, showed her the email, told her about the attempted withdrawal, the lies, she just sat there shaking her head. "I feel like I don't even know him," she whispered. "Neither do I." But I wasn't done. One of Dylan's old part-time bosses reached out through Facebook. Said he'd seen what was happening and felt bad for not saying anything sooner. Apparently, Dylan had been bragging at work too. About how he planned to sue his way into free housing. How the system favors the poor kid if you play your cards right. He even said he was going to get me declared unfit so he could take the house. The man had screenshots. Messages from Dylan's private account. I printed them all. I knew the court probably wouldn't hear them in the current case, but I was ready for whatever came next. 3 weeks later, the letter from the court finally came. I sat at the kitchen table and opened it with hands that didn't feel like mine. The judge ruled in my favor. Said there was no legal obligation for a parent to support an adult child. Cited the email as evidence of manipulation. Dismissed Dylan's claims in full. I should have felt relief. But all I felt was emptiness. The next day, I drove to my sister's house. Paula opened the door slowly, like she wasn't sure which version of me she'd see: angry brother, grieving father, or both. "I need to talk to him," I said. She nodded and led me to the back. Dylan was sitting in her den, playing video games on her couch, just like he had in college. Same blank look, same cheap excuses waiting behind his lips. He looked up and saw me, paused the game. "You happy now?" he said. "You won. You crushed your own son." I sat across from him and said nothing for a long time. Then, "I spent 20 years sacrificing for you. I gave up everything. You could have had anything: college, support, even a second chance. And you threw it away." He rolled his eyes. "I didn't throw it away. You pulled the rug out." "No, Dylan. You stomped on it and lit it on fire." I stood up and reached into my pocket. Handed him a folded letter. My final words to him. It said, "Dylan, you are no longer welcome in my home, my life, or my future. You have taken my love and used it as a weapon. I have changed all my accounts, locked down my assets, and removed you from everything legal. You have two choices from here. 1. Fix your life without me. 2. Keep blaming everyone until there's no one left. Either way, this is the last thing you'll ever get from me. Dad, he didn't read it. Just tossed it aside and muttered, "You'll regret this someday." I walked out and didn't look back. That was a year ago. Since then, I've rebuilt my life. Quietly. I go fishing with a neighbor now. Took a part-time job at a hardware store. I even started dating a woman named Teresa. She's kind, patient, and doesn't treat love like something you're owed. But I still check the mail every now and then, wondering if I'll see a letter from Dylan. Something real. Something honest. It hasn't come. The last I heard, he got evicted from Paula's place after pawning her laptop. He's somewhere in Cincinnati now, couch hopping, maybe working part-time at a vape shop. I used to lie awake wondering what I could have done different. But not anymore. I made mistakes, gave too much, stayed quiet too long, avoided hard truths because I wanted to protect him. But in the end, love without limits isn't love. It's weakness. And I'm done being weak. That was the last gift I gave my son, the lesson that actions have consequences. Even when they come from your own father.